Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, if you would please look up on the screen here, we're going to again right mouse click on our package name, choose new, again choose Java class, and now we're going to write the commission class. Alright, everybody cool with that? And now you should already know that when we write this one, we're going to say public class commission, and we're going to say here extends payroll, and I'll put it on another line, I just don't want to run out of room, implements iPayroll. Alright, now again, we're getting that stuff because we haven't added the stuff yet from payroll and iPayroll. That's why we're getting those underlines. They'll all go away by the time we're finished. Alright? When we get done with this, I'll leave it up to you. I've got hard copies for all of you. Alright? We can either go on if you think it helps to do it like this, or if you'd rather do it yourself, you can do it yourself. Alright, but if you decide you want to do it yourself, that's fine. But then I want to mention something then about the driver. Okay? Alright, so we're going to come in here, and again, first we're going to do our instance variables. And the ones that you have for a commission worker are a double, which are sales, and a double for rate. So the sales, commission people, how much do they sell? All right, so if they sell $1,000 and their rate is 10%, they make $100. Make sense? All right. I'm going to go back to the one we just did, the hourly, and I'm going to grab those decimal patterns that we just did. I'm going to copy those in. All right. So you know that when we did that, we had to also come in here and import. Move this over. What's that? Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably could have brought it in. You're right. Java, was it text decimal format? You're right. All right. Okay, so we've got all that stuff. Now, we're going to add one more in here, too, just so you know. We're going to have to add another class, because what I'd like to print out is a % sign. Everybody with me? But I don't want to manually have to put in that % sign. I don't want to do that. I want it to figure out a percentage for me. So if you look up on the screen, I'm going to import another file here, or I should say another package, and that is java.text.number format. All right, so I added this, my line 4 here. It says it's unused. We're going to fix that right now. All right. So right under the one that the two we just created, I'm going to say number format, and I'm just going to call it dec pattern, dec for decimal, equals, and you do it a little bit differently. So number format dot get % instance, and I spelled number wrong, as you can see. Number. Everybody see Trump's tweet about Clemson? He called them hamdurbers or something like that instead of hamburgers. The guy, he should at least hire somebody that before he tweets, they at least check it for spelling. Yeah, what was it, Covfefe or whatever it was? I mean, it's like he gives all these late night comedians material all the time. Then he gets mad when they use it. They use his own words. All right, so let's start with the full Arc Constructor. I'm going to hit enter a few times down here so I can move this up. All right. So again, this will be the full Arc Constructor. So public, bless you, commission, and we will have, again, the string for first name, the string for last name, the string for our social security number, and we will also add two doubles this time. The one double, which will be for sales, we'll call it S, and another double for our rate. All right? And again, hopefully all these errors that we're getting in here, they're all going to be rectified in just a couple minutes. All right, so again, super, FN, LN, SS. We are letting the parent handle, all right, the setting of the first name, the last name, and the social security number. All right?
So all super does is gets the values for that.
No, what super does is it calls the method of the same name of the parent. And if it doesn't find that, it looks at the grandparent. It just makes its way up the hierarchy.
If there was a no Arc Constructor, how would we...
You can't have one in this. It doesn't make any sense, because I guess that you could, but even in that, when you start doing this and you start putting in a lot of like interfaces, and a lot of times no Arc Constructors just go away.
Yeah. So the parent class, the mission parent class is Payroll.
The parent classes, yeah. So it's looking, and it says, okay, I'm going to call the super means I'm going to call, in this case, I'm going to call the constructor of the parent, and I'm going to pass to the constructor of the parent a first name, a last name, and a social security number. So it's going to handle them.
Right. So it just has to. So it calls the constructor. But if you have multiple constructors,
if you had multiple constructors, it would all be based on what was in here. And that's why in this language you can only have one parent. All right, it's not like I could call super that it would be calling one class or a different class. It just the system can't handle that. There is a language C++ which does allow you to do that. All right. So now we're going to call set sales, which we'll write in just a second. We'll pass in the sales and set rate. Okay, and we'll pass in the rate. Okay. Then we're going to come down here. We're going to add our setters and getters for these two. You know how to do that, so you can do it yourselves. Watch me do it. But it's going to be code, generate, getter and setter. We want, again, sales and rate. We don't want those patterns. Okay, so that's all that. And we're going to end up doing this very similar to the way we did the last class. All right. Again, we're not going to touch either one of the gets. They're fine. We're going to play with both of the sets. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. And we're going to do the same thing. We want to make sure that you don't have a sales or a rate that you pass in that is invalid. So what we're doing in both these cases, again, I'm going to change sales to S, and I'm going to change rate to R. So this will be an R. Oops, that one won't be. That'll be an R, and that'll be an S. All right. So very similar to what we did before. I'm going to say here, if S is less than min sales, or S is greater than max sales. All right, so again, if either one of those are true, just like we did before, I'm going to set, let's throw the new argument exception first. Throw new illegal argument exception. And again, I'm going to say here, sales must be between min sales and plus max sales. All right. Then we will come in and say this dot sales, we'll say S, sorry, S equals def sales. All right. And then we've got this. Why am I getting that? Oh, unreachable. Okay, it doesn't want that to be first. That makes sense. They want it like that. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, what is this saying? If we put in a sales amount that's less than 0 or it's greater than $1 million, all right, we're just going to set it to the default, which is like 10,000 or something like that. I don't remember what it is. All right, and then we're going to throw an exception that says sales must be between the values of those two constants. Where are those? They're in Payroll. All right. Okay. Notice how once we're using these, they're turning from purple or from gray to purple. All right. Then we're going to come in and do virtually the same thing again. So I'm just going to grab all this stuff that I just put in, and I'm going to go down by rate, hit enter, and bring that in. So this will now be R. Everywhere that I've got in here, it is S. Min sales will become min rate. Max, I think it's C rate, isn't it? Yep. And max sales will become max C rate. And this will be def C rate. And this will be rate must be between min C rate and max C rate. And this dot sales will be equal now to R. Now I'm going through this fairly quickly. Are you getting a grasp of what's going on in here? I'm seeing two heads shaking. Is it making sense? Andrew? Okay. Like I said, when we get done, if you want, we can do the other two. That's fine. I have no problem at all doing them. Or if it's easier for you, I can just give you the handouts. And you can do the ones for the salaried and the piece worker. Either way is fine. All right. So what do we got left? Well, just like before, we've got to override the toString method. So public string toString. All right. And then once we get done with that, we have to override that earnings method. Now, I wouldn't normally do this, but if you look on the screen, I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to grab the toString from hourly, because it's basically set up the same way I want to set it up. So I'm going to grab all that, and I'm going to copy it in here and just make my changes. All right. You can see what I have to change if you look on the screen. All right. So instead of an hourly payroll object, this will say a commission payroll object. The name is correct. The social security number is correct. All right. We don't have hours worked anymore. So this will say sales, and this will change to get sales. All right. And this will say rate, and this will change to get rate. All right. I don't know if you agree, but to me, it was a hell of a lot faster than typing it in myself. But if you do that, please, please, please make sure you take the time. If you're doing a lot of copy and pasting, that's when it's the easiest to make errors, is when you're doing stuff like that. The other thing we have to do is we have to override. So at override, and override what? Our public double earnings. This one's just a single line. Return get sales times get rate. That's it. So we knocked that class off in 15 minutes. Do you want to do the other two as a class, or do you want to do them yourselves? Or doesn't it matter? All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll do these last two. Then what I'll do is I'll hand out the hard copies, okay? And I want you guys, rather than even having you type in what I've got in for the driver, I'd like you to come up with your own drivers. All right? Because that's where the rubber meets the road, because that's where you get something or you don't get it. All right? Does everybody have the 2-string? Oh, good point. Yeah. Forget sales and forget rate. And in fact, you're right. Forget sales, it is, and I didn't put in the weekly piece. So sales, I've got the pattern 1 in there. So for sales, pattern 1.format, that's correct. Rate, no, I want the decimal here. So instead of pattern 2, thank you for saying that. All right, I'm going to say here, deck pattern dot format. All right, and then finally for earnings, did we do that before for earnings? Look back. Remember this earnings right here? Where is our earnings? Return this. I mean, we could have taken this and said, and formatted it, you know what I mean? So it was dollars. Probably would have been better to do that. All right, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. If you want to change it, change it. But in here, where I've got my weekly earnings, okay, right there, I'm going to do the earnings, and I'm going to put a pattern 2 dot format for earnings. In fact, I can do it with the other one because it's in 2-string. So I should go back. Did I change the 2-string in here? No. See this? So that should have also been a pattern 2 dot format. Thanks for picking that up, Andrew. All right. It'll look nicer now when we go and print it out. So does everybody have everything they need from here? Are we all, is everybody caught up? Because I can wait for a couple minutes. This is going a lot faster than I thought it was going to go. All right. We're going to be done with this before 3. I figured if we did it all as a class, because I didn't think of doing all these mass copies like I've been doing. All right. Next, we're going to do salaried employees. All right. Good idea. Good time to do a file. Save all. All right. And again, as we did before, we're going to come in here. I might have to widen that out a bit, but I'm going to right mouse click on my pattern, on my package rather, new Java class. This one will be called Salaried, S-A-L-A-R-I-E-D. All right, this will be for a salaried employee. Keep it as class. Hit enter. Let's build this one. Just like we've been doing. Public class salaried extends payroll. Implements iPayroll. Again, we get those errors. Again, those errors are going to go away. All right, our instance variables. This is the easiest one of all because we're assuming that if you're salaried, you get the same amount every week, no matter what. So it's just an instance variable. And it's a private double. And I called it weekly salary. That's it. All right. So I'm going to put in my full Arc Constructor, public salary, salaried, and again, string first name, string last name, string social security number, and just the double. And since it's weekly salary, I just called it S for salary. You can call it whatever you want. Again, it doesn't matter. Oops. All right. Again, we say super. We pass in the first name, the last name, and the social security number. And then we have set weekly salary, which is going to give us an error because it isn't written yet, and that's S. All right. Again, let me hit enter a few times just to move this up a little bit. All right, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to again do a code, generate, getter and setter. The only one we have is weekly salary. Boom, that's done. Our getter is fine, just like as we have been doing. We're going to have to change our setter. All right, so instead of that, I'm just going to call it S. And you can keep those names if you want to. It really and truly doesn't matter. All right. So if S is less than the min salary rate, was probably kind of crummy names, but or S is greater than the max salary rate, you already know what's coming. All right, because we've done this before. All right, so we have to first say S equals def salary rate, and then we will again throw our new illegal argument exception, where we will say weekly, I'm going to put it all on its own line, weekly salary must be between min S rate and max S rate. All right, again, I don't need that parenthesis that is laying around there. And weekly salary. So we've got that done. And once again, we have to override toString, and we have to override the earnings. All right, so public string toString. I'm again just going to copy from the last one. Maybe that's not a good idea, but I'm just doing it anyway. It's actually got more than I need here. So I copy that in, and it's not a commission. It's a salaried payroll object. Get first name is fine. Get last name is fine. Get social security number is fine. And this one, for the pattern, did we do a pattern in here? We didn't. We can put one in just a minute. I don't care, but I'll leave it in there. And this will be get weekly salary. All right. And this will be pattern 1 and pattern 2. I'm just going to steal those from the last one we did. So I need that import statement. And I need these 2 decimal patterns. I don't need the one for percentages because we're not using percentages here. That, right, this over, see all of it. So I only really need a pattern 2. I don't even need a pattern 1. So pattern 2, that works out fine. We'll do the override. The override's the easiest one there is. All we're doing is returning the weekly salary, the get weekly salary. That's it. So I'll put this up, and I'll come in here, add override, public double earnings, return get weekly salary. That's it. So we now have 3 of the 4 classes done. So the only one left is piece worker. Piece worker in many ways is like an hourly employee. But instead with an hour employee where it's hours worked and hourly rate, with a piece worker, we're figuring it out based on the number of pieces they have and the price per piece. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So when you look up on the screen here from the stuff that when we started, we now have done payroll, we've done hourly, we've done commission, we've done salary. So the only one left is piece worker. Now start to think about this. All right. This is as deep as we're going to go. But if we did this, I mentioned this yesterday, so if we had a full-time and we had a part-time there, you know, what distinguishes full-time from part-time? The number of hours they work, right? So we might end up having something in there for benefits. It might be that if you're part-time, you don't get any benefits. If you're over 40 hours a week, you do get benefits. All right? It might be that commission workers get benefits, or maybe they don't. Maybe there's 2 kinds of commission workers or more. Maybe there's more than one kind of salary tier. Maybe there's more than one, you know, what I'm saying is we can keep going down in this. All right, depending on the complexity of whatever it is we're working with. All right, so let's finish this last one. So I'm going to do a save all, then I'm going to go back to here. And again, right mouse click on the name of the package, new Java class, and I'm going to call this piece worker with a big P and a big W. But I am going to run them together, piece worker, like that. All right, and this will be the last one. Then I'm going to give you my handout, and I'm going to show you what I have in there. Okay, and it's fairly detailed, but we'll go over that in just a couple minutes. All right. All right, let's move this up. Again, for piece worker, I'm going to import java.text.decimal format. Okay, you've seen it before. And for our instance variables, we will have 2 of them. Private int, number of pieces, and a private double, price per piece. Now, sometimes what's going to happen, depending on who you are, where you go to work, etc., people may complain and say, you know, I don't like the way this ding-a-ling programs. He makes his names too long. All right? But my comeback would be twofold. Number one, we got IntelliSense in virtually every kind of editor today. So you don't, if you're smart, you're not typing all the time anyway. Second, most programmers that I've come in contact with do a very piss poor job of commenting. So by using variable names that are at least somewhat, all right, self-documenting, you're getting around that a little bit. All right. All right, I'm going to have 1 decimal formatter in here. Okay, so that's done. Again, as we've been doing, let me hit enter a few times in here again. All right, I'm going to start by putting in just my full Arc Constructor. All right, you know it by now. String, first name, string, last name, string, social security number, all right, and nobody even caught me on this, did you? How about extends payroll, implements payroll. Okay, all right. So we're in here, super, FN, LN, SS, set number of pieces, and that will be, oh, I'm sorry, this is not complete. We have to put our int in, and our int is NOP, number of pieces, and our double, which is price per piece. Sorry about that. So we have to call set number of pieces and pass the NOP, and set price per piece. We'll pass in PPP. All right. Then we'll come down here and we'll do our getters and setters, and I'll let you catch up. So code, generate, getter and setter, number of pieces, price per piece. Okay. Okay. Didn't put a comma there. There we go. I may have told you about this, but I want to mention it again. Hopefully you'll see the tie-in. All right. I took a class out in Chicago years ago. I took it with a friend of mine. And the guy who taught the class, you could just tell he had everything he did was down to a science. I like to redo it all the time. I don't do it like that. In other words, I mean, when I say redo it, some of this I'm even rewriting a little bit, maybe not a lot, but sometimes I'll rewrite stuff while I'm, even if I'm taking it off of a piece of paper. The point is, with this guy, what he did was he had what it was a database class. He had what he was working on to set down to such a science. He said that the majority of the jobs that he took, he was a contractor, he could literally do in a day. And when he bidded them out, he would bid them out for 3 weeks. And so that gave him 15 days, right? And he'd work a little bit, but he had this big script that he used for everything. And what he spent most of his time doing was tweaking that script. All right? The reason I'm telling you that, though, is have you noticed how much similarity there's been between all these? You start at where you get certain patterns. You're like, oh, now if I had to go and, if I told you right now, we got a new kind of worker in here. I'm not telling you that, but if we did, I don't know what kind it would be. But if it was something, you should be able to implement that now. All right? You have to know how they'd be paid. All right? But and what kind of extra variables they have other than first name, last name, and social security number. But other than that, you should be able to do it right away. All right. So as always, we're not going to touch our getters. We are going to touch our setters in just a minute. All right, so we've got our set number of pieces. Again, I'm going to just call it NOP, N-O-P. And just like we have been doing, all right, I want to come in and make sure, so if the number of pieces is less than the minimum number of pieces, or the number of pieces is greater than the max number of pieces, you already know what we're going to do because it's the same stuff we've been doing. Oops. All right, we're going to say the number of pieces equals the default number of pieces, and we're going to throw a new illegal argument exception, and we're going to say in there number of pieces must be between min NOP and max NOP. All right. And then finally, this number of pieces equals NOP. All right.
And your payroll is set to a double. Which should be fine.
Oh, is it? Okay, go back to payroll if you would, please. Yeah, that should be an int. That's the number of pieces. Okay, maybe you caught, thanks Tony for catching that. Maybe some of the rest of you caught that too. Notice how they're all purple now? Meaning they're all being used except these, which we're about to do right now. All right, so thank you for that. So again, I changed this line. It was a static double, made it a static int. Yeah, and like you said, that should, there, now that error's gone. All right, again, I'm going to just grab this stuff that's in there, and I want to copy it down. My price per piece, I like PPP better. Okay. What two things do we have to do now? Override toString and then override earnings, right? And did you notice that we don't have to use the word override for string, but we do for earnings? All right, and that's because earnings was defined in that abstract class. All right, so I'm going to grab, again, just grab it from salaried. Do whatever way you want. I'm just going to grab all that from there. Paste it in. Again, what's nice about that is when I do that, I know right away what I have to change. Thought I typed in public string, but evidently I didn't. String to string. All that in here. All right, so this will be a piece worker. Payroll object. The name is fine. Social security number is fine, but I'll have to change this. This will be number of pieces. And it'll be pattern. I don't need any pattern because that's an int. So that will be get number of pieces. Hello. That's real nice. Right? And then copy that, and it'll be price per piece. Number of, that should be number of pieces, and this should be price per piece. And this is return price per piece. All right, and the weekly will be, we have to write that again. So we will write that down here. And that's simple because that's just get number of pieces times get price per piece.
Those two errors right there.
Where's that?
For number
Here.
of pieces, yeah.
How about because I don't have semicolons.
You don't want a pattern to get it as
For the price per piece, we can do that.
good.
We can do the same thing that we did there. It's probably a good idea. There. Okay. Thank you. And again, we'll do our override down here, which again is our private double earnings, paren, and then it's just, that's not private, that one's public. And that should be return get number of pieces times get price per piece. Okay. So the only thing that's left is to do the driver. All right. Now I'm going to pass this out, and I want to show you passing this out what I did with the driver. You probably don't see the driver. So think about it. I mentioned this to you yesterday, but I'm saying it again right now. When you do your last test, which will be next week, whenever it is, Tuesday or whenever, all right, when you do that test, you will be creating a checking account class and a savings account class. And you'll be using the same kind of patterns that you've been using here. Hopefully it'll be a lot faster, a lot slicker for you, to do that. Now, I'm just going to show it over here. I'm not going to write this right now, but if you look up on the screen here, this is a from where I did it before in Notepad. I tried, checking a bunch of stuff. So notice what I'm doing here. Everything good, bad first name, bad last name, bad social security number, out of range, hours worked, out of range, hourly rate, etc. Does that make sense? All right. And then after you've done all that kind of stuff, because that's really all I put in here, but you should be able to call all the set routines and the get routines. So what I'm going to grade you on, this is your pretest, but it's an assignment too. All right, and I'll turn it in a week from today. All assignments when I give them are due a week from when they're assigned. So there's two things you have to do. Number one, make all this stuff work. So if you've got any errors in any of your code right now, fix them. Number two, write me a good enough driver that you're testing the stuff that's in here. Does that make sense? You don't have to, for all four classes, you don't have to put in a blank first name and a blank last. You can do it for one of them. That's fine. But I'd like you to call all the set routines, and I'd like you to call the set routines with bad data in them, out of range data, to make sure they work. All right? If you don't have to do this, but if you want to add something in your driver, like, bless you, like total number of employees or whatever, you can do that. You don't have to do that. But think about it. If this was a payroll report you were writing for your boss, she or he may want the total number of piece workers, maybe what the average piece worker salary was, etc. You don't have to do that. But those are the kind of things that you could potentially be doing. Does all that make sense? All right. So you can use the rest of the period today. You've got about an hour and 40 minutes. All right. You should be able to get a lot of it done, I would think, in that time. All right. I mean, everybody does this differently. I am most concerned with, and I asked this before, so I'm just going to say it one more time. It sounds like everybody here, you get what we did. And you might say, yeah, but boy, you did a lot of copy paste, you did it fast. Then go back and look at it. All right. But when we did the first one, the other ones were basically duplicates of the first one. The only thing that was different between the four classes, of course, the names were different, but how they earned their money was different. All right. Other than that, they were basically the same class. You find a lot of that. For instance, if you look up here, remember we did that the other day, animal, and we had dog, cat, etc. I mean, what's the difference between I don't know, a beagle and a cocker spaniel? You know, don't they both have the breed is different, but don't they both have the same number of feet, etc.? You know, when you're talking about most stuff, is going to be the same. All right. All right. I'll shut up and let you get going then.
Could something like the decimal format, could you put that in the interface and then?
I thought of that. I don't know why you couldn't.
Yeah.
You may have to make it public then, so it's available. Try it. That's a great thought. Anything that's being duplicated in here, all right, feel free. And if it doesn't work, you know, what I would suggest is leave it in there, and if you put it in the interface and it works, just comment it out from there. All right. Okay. Good.